Okay, ready for this. Today we're diving deep into the world of Evie Poumpouras,
Evie Poumpouras.
former Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking presidents, undercover operations, like the whole nine yards.
Yeah, this whole thing.
We're pulling from her interview on The Diary of a CEO.
Right.
And trust me, she drops some serious wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, she's incredible.
But it's not just about the wow factor of her career, right?
Right.
What's fascinating is how this translates to everyday life.
Exactly.
Whether you're negotiating a raise or just trying to figure out if your teenager is telling the truth.
Mm.
Like, one thing she said that really blew my mind was even criminals showing up with Bibles and rosary beads
Oh, yeah.
were a red flag for her.
Interesting.
It makes you think,
Yeah.
like, is it about trying too hard?
Right?
A mismatch between what you expect and what you see?
Yeah.
I'm terrible at spotting those subtle cues.
Sure.
So help me out here. What are we actually looking for?
Yeah.
To tell us someone's being shady.
Well, so it's not about, turning into Sherlock Holmes overnight.
Right.
Evie talks about this idea of baselining,
Okay.
getting a sense of someone's normal behavior so you can spot those deviations.
So you have a baseline.
Yeah.
And then anything that deviates from that is something to pay attention to.
Yes, but here's the thing.
Right.
It's those why moments that are key.
What do you mean by why moments?
It's not just that, someone's leg is bouncing,
Okay.
but why did it start bouncing when you asked about their weekend plans?
Oh, so like a change.
Yeah, a sudden change in behavior.
Okay.
So it's about noticing that shift.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Like that ATM scammer he mentioned who
Yeah.
just kept repeating the same story
Yes.
even when she had his photo.
Exactly, that unwavering insistence.
Okay.
Especially when it doesn't match the facts.
Yeah.
That can be a really big clue.
Interesting.
Or someone who suddenly gets overly emphatic, like, I swear to God, it wasn't me.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That sudden ramp up can be a subconscious attempt to cover their tracks.
Okay, that's making me rethink some past conversations.
I bet.
Okay, so we're getting better at reading people.
Mm-hmm.
But Evie also talks about persuasion being less about making people like you
Right.
and more about competence and warmth.
Exactly.
And I really struggle with this one
Okay.
because doesn't that just sound like being a people pleaser?
I think that's where Evie's perspective is really interesting.
Okay.
Think about leaders that you respect, the ones who inspire you to do your best work.
Okay.
It's likely not because they're trying to be everyone's best friend.
That's true.
It's about, it's more about knowing that they have your back,
Yeah.
that they can handle whatever comes up.
Right, like you trust them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Competence means you deliver, you're reliable, your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And warmth isn't about being sugary sweet.
Okay.
It's about treating people with respect,
Yeah.
showing that you care about their well-being.
Okay.
Evie saw this firsthand with the presidents she protected.
Yeah.
They weren't all like charismatic or, the most fun people to hang out with, but they commanded respect
Yeah.
through those two qualities.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's like I can respect my boss
Yeah.
even if we don't, hang out on the weekends.
Exactly.
And this is where Evie threw me for a loop.
Okay.
She's huge on listening,
Yes.
which confession I am terrible at.
Really?
My brain's already crafting my response
Oh, wow.
while the other person is talking.
Okay.
So why is she so insistent on this?
Yeah.
Is it just about being polite?
She talks about understanding what she calls the motivational mindset.
The motivational mindset.
Yeah.
What is that?
So by really listening, you're not just being quiet,
Oh.
you're gathering intel.
Oh.
Like, what are this person's goals,
Oh.
fears, values? It's
Yeah.
like in that incredible story where she lured that Russian hacker to the U.S.
Oh, yeah?
It was all about figuring out what made him tick, what would actually get him on that plane.
Oh, wow. So it's like turning a conversation into an undercover op.
In a way. Yeah.
And suddenly good listening becomes less about being passive and more about, like, strategizing.
Think of it as assembling a puzzle.
Okay.
The more pieces you have, the better you can understand the bigger picture.
Right.
Listening gives you those pieces.
Okay.
Then you can tailor your approach
Got it.
and be genuinely persuasive, not manipulative.
Okay. I like that.
Right.
Persuasive, not manipulative.
Yeah. And that's where things can get a little bit tricky, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes you need to persuade someone who's not exactly, playing by the rules.
Right.
And Evie had to deal with this all the time in the Secret Service.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how do you set boundaries when someone's already pushing them?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Right.
I'm picturing, like, that coworker we all have. The one who, like, dumps all their work on you last minute.
Totally.
How do you handle that and not just turn into a doormat?
Well, Evie's all about directness,
Okay.
but not aggression.
So there's a fine line there.
Yeah, address the issue head on.
Okay.
Explain how their behavior impacts you or the team. But here's the key.
Okay.
Ask clarifying questions.
Oh, interesting.
It shows that you're not just attacking.
Right.
You're genuinely trying to understand their perspective.
Like you're coming from a place of curiosity.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like that story she told about the employee who messed up.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't just yell at them.
Right.
She wanted to know, like, hey, what went wrong? How can we fix this?
So it's about making things better.
Yeah, it's about making things better, not just punishing.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
So even in conflict, competence and warmth still apply.
Absolutely.
It's like you're showing you're capable of handling tough situations,
Right.
but you also care about the person and the outcome.
Exactly.
Okay, but sometimes setting boundaries means making hard calls.
Right.
Like having to fire someone.
Yes.
And it's easy to say set boundaries, but it's so much harder to do it when the stakes are high.
And, Evie learned that from protecting presidents,
Yeah.
seeing how they made decisions not based on emotion,
Right.
but on what was best for the mission for the country.
So it's like taking the emotion out of it.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
And sometimes that meant making unpopular choices.
Yeah.
But they did it with rationality, with a clear head.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of presidents, she worked with Clinton, Bush, Obama.
I know.
You've got to be a little starstruck.
Right.
What did she learn about leadership from being in that inner circle?
It's fascinating because what stood out to her wasn't charisma or like power plays or anything like that.
Okay.
It was their resilience, the ability to face constant criticism, to make those tough calls without letting their ego get in the way. And she links this back to setting the right tone, creating an environment where people feel respected and empowered to do their best work.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But those are presidents. So how does that translate to, say, leading a team at work or even just managing your own family?
It's about those core principles, right?
Okay.
Clear thinking, strong boundaries, creating that culture of respect.
Yeah.
Like she tells this great story about a phone going off during a meeting with President Bush.
Oh, yeah.
And how he handled it so calmly.
Okay.
Just setting the tone for everyone else.
Right. Leading by example.
Exactly. It's those little things that add up to a strong and resilient leadership style.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
And that brings us to something that really hit home for me.
Okay.
Becoming bulletproof.
Yes.
It sounds kind of macho.
I know.
But Evie's take on it is actually really profound, especially what she said about victimhood and trauma.
Right.
I'm curious to get your perspective on this.
This is where Evie's own story becomes really powerful.
Yeah.
She experienced trauma firsthand with 9/11.
Of course.
And she saw how some people got stuck letting it define them. But her point isn't to minimize those experiences.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond.
So it's not like just get over it.
Not at all.
It's more nuanced than that.
It's about how we let it shape us.
Okay.
Becoming bulletproof isn't about being invulnerable.
Right.
It's about cultivating that inner strength to face whatever comes your way.
So it's about building resilience.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
Okay, deep breath.
Okay.
Because we're going from the Oval Office to the underworld.
Okay. I'm ready.
Evie's undercover stories are seriously intense.
Yeah, they're wild.
Like I was on the edge of my seat
I bet.
reading them.
Yeah.
What stood out for you?
What's incredible is how she had to become almost a different person.
Yeah.
Like adopting accents, inventing backstories,
Right.
all while staying completely calm under pressure.
Like that time she had to lure that Albanian passport forger into a trap.
Whoa, yeah.
Talk about high stakes.
I know.
I would have crumbled under that pressure.
I think most people would.
But that's where Evie's training kicks in, right?
Yeah, she talks about staying focused on the mission,
Okay.
trusting her team, and using those observation skills we talked about earlier to read the situation, to know when to push and when to back off.
It's like she's using all those skills we've been talking about.
Exactly. She's putting it all together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yet she also talks about the emotional toll that undercover work takes.
Right.
So how do you come back from living a lie?
Yeah.
Even if it's for a good cause.
That's something a lot of us can relate to.
Yeah.
Even if we're not facing down criminals.
Right. Like it's about that balance.
Exactly.
Between our professional and personal lives.
It's about having a strong support system.
Okay.
People that you can truly be yourself with, who ground you when things get chaotic.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Switching gears a bit, but sticking with the theme of personal strength.
Okay.
Abby's big on physical fitness.
Yes, she is.
It's more than just looking good, right?
Right. She calls it building resilience.
Resilience?
Both mentally and physically.
Okay.
She talks about how running helped her process stress, difficult emotions.
So like a way to clear your head.
Exactly. It's that mind-body connection.
Okay.
When you push yourself physically, you build that mental toughness too.
But not all of us are marathon runners.
Right.
So what's her advice for those of us who are, shall we say, fitness challenged?
It's not about becoming an Olympian or anything like that.
Okay.
It's about finding what works for you.
Okay.
What helps you feel strong and capable, whether it's yoga or dancing or just taking a walk in nature.
Right.
It's about making that connection with your body.
Okay.
And through that, building your resilience.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've touched on this a little bit throughout the episode, but I want to circle back to one of Evie's key points.
Okay.
Understanding what makes people tick, what she calls the motivational mindset.
A motivational mindset.
It sounds almost manipulative.
I know, right?
But I think there's something deeper there.
It's not about manipulating people. It's about understanding them.
Okay.
Evie learned this in the field where she had to gain people's trust, get them to open up. And she realized that everyone has their own motivations, their own fears and desires.
So instead of just like barging in with what we want, it's about figuring out what's driving the other person.
Exactly. And that's where good listening comes back in.
Oh, okay.
You're not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Right.
You're actively gathering information, building a rapport.
Okay.
And then you can use that understanding to communicate more effectively.
So it's about making that connection.
Yeah.
On a deeper level.
Exactly.
Whether you're negotiating a contract or trying to convince your kids to eat their vegetables.
Totally.
Or just having a meaningful conversation with a loved one.
It applies to everything.
Yeah. I love how she connects this back to her experience protecting presidents. It's like even the most powerful people in the world are still driven by these basic human needs and motivations. Understanding those is key to effective leadership persuasion and, frankly, just getting along with people.
And it's something we can all learn to do, regardless of our job title or background. It's about developing empathy, curiosity.
Yeah.
That willingness to truly see the world through another person's eyes.
Okay, now for something a little more personal.
Okay.
Evie's pretty open about her own struggles with anxiety.
Yeah.
Something a lot of people can relate to. It feels almost taboo to hear a former Secret Service agent talk about this.
Right.
Like they're supposed to be invincible.
Yeah, you would think.
But that's why it's so important that she does talk about it.
Exactly.
It normalizes these experiences.
Yeah.
Shows us that even the most strong and capable people have vulnerabilities.
It makes it human.
Right.
And she emphasizes finding those healthy coping mechanisms.
Okay.
For her, it was exercise. But it could be anything that helps you manage stress and process those difficult emotions.
And I think that ties in so beautifully with her whole message of becoming bulletproof.
Absolutely.
It's not about pretending we don't have weaknesses.
Right.
It's about acknowledging them.
Yeah.
Finding ways to manage them.
And using them to build resilience.
Exactly.
It's about that continuous journey of self-improvement, learning and growing from our experiences.
Right.
Both the good and the bad.
Okay, this is making me rethink my whole definition of strength.
I know. It's interesting, right?
It's less about never showing weakness and more about having the courage to face it, to learn from it.
And to come out the other side even stronger.
And that's what's so inspiring about Evie's story.
Yeah.
She shows us that true strength comes from facing our fears, acknowledging our vulnerabilities, and constantly pushing ourselves to grow and evolve.
It's a beautiful thing.
Okay, on to another fascinating aspect of her work.
Okay.
The whole world of lie detection.
Oh, yeah.
I have to admit, I'm a little obsessed with this stuff.
I get it.
So are there any surefire signs that someone's lying?
Evie's quick to point out that there's no magic formula.
Okay.
There's no single tell that guarantees that someone's being deceptive.
Okay, so no Pinocchio nose.
No Pinocchio nose.
Okay.
But she emphasizes looking for inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies?
Yeah, those moments when someone's words don't match their body language or their overall demeanor.
Like that guy she mentioned who kept saying, "I swear to God," over and over.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he was trying too hard to convince her.
It's that sudden change in behavior.
Right.
You know, the overemphasis that can be a red flag.
Okay.
Or think about the ATM scammer who stuck to his story even when she had his photo.
Yeah.
It's that unwavering denial.
Right.
Especially when it's contradicted by the evidence that can be assigned.
Okay, this is making me rethink every conversation I've ever had.
I know, me too.
So how do we get better at spotting these subtle cues?
Evie talks about establishing a baseline.
A baseline?
Yeah, paying attention to how someone typically behaves.
Okay.
So you can notice those deviations.
So it's almost like becoming a detective in our own lives.
In a way, yes.
But it feels a bit daunting.
Sure.
Like, I don't want to be suspicious of everyone I meet.
No, it's not about becoming paranoid. It's about developing that awareness, that intuition.
Okay, yeah.
And about trusting your gut.
Okay.
You know, if something feels off, if someone's behavior seems incongruent with their words,
yeah,
it's okay to dig a little deeper.
Okay.
Ask clarifying questions and trust your instincts.
So trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Okay, I like that.
Right.
Okay, this next topic is one I think a lot of us struggle with.
Okay.
Especially in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with difficult people.
Yeah.
You know those colleagues or bosses who just push your buttons?
Totally.
Who seem to thrive on drama?
Right.
Evie obviously had to deal with some pretty high-stakes personalities.
Yeah, she did.
In her line of work. So what's her approach?
It all comes back to those core principles she learned in the Secret Service.
Okay.
Clear communication, strong boundaries, a focus on the mission.
Okay.
She says it's about addressing issues directly, not letting them fester, but doing it in a respectful way, without letting your emotions get in the way.
That's easier said than done.
It is.
So how do you actually do that?
Well, she emphasizes staying calm and focused, even when the other person is escalating.
Right.
You know, don't get sucked into their drama.
Okay.
Stick to the facts, clearly state your boundaries, and be willing to walk away if the situation becomes toxic.
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is.
But sometimes necessary.
Sometimes it's the only way.
Okay.
And I love how she connects this back to her experience with presidents.
Yeah.
They didn't let themselves get rattled by every little thing. They stayed focused on the bigger picture.
Right. It's about having that perspective.
Exactly. It's about having that mental fortitude, that resilience to stay grounded.
Even when things are crazy.
Even when things get chaotic, and that's a skill that's valuable in every area of life.
It is.
Not just in high-stakes situations.
Okay, last but not least.
Yeah.
We have to talk about Evie's journey to becoming a Secret Service agent.
Oh, yeah.
It's seriously impressive.
I know it is.
The selection process is notoriously rigorous.
Oh, it's designed to weed out anyone who's not completely dedicated.
Both physically and mentally. I mean, she talks about intense background checks.
Polygraph tests.
Physical fitness assessments.
Psychological evaluations, the whole 9 yards.
She said it's easier to get into Harvard than the Secret Service.
That's what they say.
So what stood out to you about her experience going through all that?
Her unwavering determination. Yeah, she set her sights on this goal and refused to give up even when faced with challenges and setbacks.
Oh.
And let's not forget, you know, she had to overcome gender bias and discrimination within the agency itself.
Yeah, that's a whole other layer.
It is.
But it's so inspiring to see how she persevered, how she proved herself.
Through hard work and dedication.
It shows that we can achieve anything we set our minds to.
Yeah.
Even if the odds are stacked against us.
I love that.
And it also emphasizes the importance of having a strong support system.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, Evie talks about the role models and mentors who inspired her and how she, in turn, became a role model for others.
Yes, especially for women and minorities who aspired to careers in law enforcement.
It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah.
You know how one person's courage can inspire countless others?
And what I found so fascinating was how Evie's experience in the Secret Service shaped her whole approach to life. Like, it instilled in her those core values.
Integrity, resilience, service.
Exactly. And it's clear that those values permeate everything she does.
Yeah.
From her writing to her speaking engagements.
It's like she's not just sharing anecdotes. She's sharing a way of life.
It's a philosophy of empowerment that we can all learn from.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From lie detection to leadership. From undercover ops to overcoming trauma.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
But there's one thing I still haven't wrapped my head around.
Okay.
How do we actually become more bulletproof?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And there's no easy answer. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
But I think Evie's story gives us a roadmap,
Okay.
a set of principles we can apply to our own lives.
Okay, so what's the first step?
I think it starts with self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Understanding our strengths,
Okay.
our weaknesses, our triggers.
So it's about getting to know ourselves.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
The whole package.
Okay.
It's about being honest with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
about where we need to grow, where we need to set boundaries,
Right.
where we need to develop more resilience.
Okay.
And it's about being willing to challenge ourselves,
Okay.
step outside of our comfort zones to face our fears.
That reminds me of what she said about choosing to become, not just being.
Yes.
It's like we're all works in progress, constantly evolving and growing.
And that's the beauty of it.
It is.
It's a lifelong journey.
Right.
And there's always something new to learn, something new to discover.
Yeah.
About ourselves and the world around us.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired.
Good.
But also a little overwhelmed.
I get it.
Where do we go from here?
Okay.
What's one concrete step we can take today to start becoming a little more bulletproof?
I think it starts with a simple question.
Okay.
What's one area of your life where you feel vulnerable?
Okay.
Where you feel like you're lacking resilience?
All right.
Could be in your relationships, your career,
Okay.
your physical health, your mental well-being.
So it's about identifying those areas where we feel a little shaky,
Yeah.
a little less than bulletproof.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then asking ourselves, what's one small step we can take today to start strengthening that area? It could be setting a boundary with a difficult person, starting a new exercise routine, or simply taking some time for self-care.
Yeah.
It's those small, consistent actions.
Yeah.
Those little victories that build up over time.
And create a more resilient, more bulletproof version of ourselves.
Exactly. And it's about celebrating those victories,
Oops.
no matter how small they may seem.
That's right.
It's about acknowledging our progress and giving ourselves credit for the effort we're putting in.
And I love how she emphasizes that it's a journey, not a destination.
Yes.
There's no finish line,
right.
no point where we suddenly become bulletproof and everything's perfect.
It's about constantly striving.
Yeah.
Constantly growing and constantly evolving.
I like that.
Right.
And it's about embracing the challenges, the setbacks,
Yes.
the moments when we feel like we're falling apart.
Absolutely.
Because those are the moments that teach us the most.
They do.
That force us to dig deep
Yeah.
and discover our true strength.
I love that.
And it's about remembering we're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Evie talks a lot about having a strong support system.
Oh, absolutely.
People you can lean on when things get tough.
For sure.
You know, for her, it was her fellow Secret Service agents.
Yeah.
Her family, her close friends.
Right. And that really resonates with what we know about resilience.
Okay.
It's not a solo act.
Right.
It's about having those people who believe in you, who can offer a different perspective, who can help you pick yourself up when you fall.
And I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
Especially when we're struggling. You know, we try to put on a brave face, pretend we have it all together.
Right. Like, we should be able to handle it all on our own.
But Evie's pretty open about the fact that even she needed help sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Especially after going through something as traumatic as 9/11.
Of course. And that vulnerability,
Yeah.
that willingness to admit that she's not superhuman makes her message even more powerful.
It does.
You know, it gives us permission to reach out, to build those connections, to ask for help when we need it.
It's like even secret agents need a shoulder to cry on sometimes.
Everyone does.
Okay, I want to touch on one more thing that really stuck with me.
Okay.
Evie's emphasis on authenticity.
Yes.
You know, in a world where everyone's trying to fit in to project this perfect image,
Yeah.
she's all about embracing who you are, quirks and all.
And that's where her experience being a woman in a male-dominated field really comes through.
Yeah.
She talks about being underestimated, you know, not fitting the stereotype of a Secret Service agent, but instead of trying to mold herself into something she wasn't, she owned her uniqueness and it became her strength.
It's like she's saying, screw the mold, be the mold.
I love that.
Which I love, but how do you actually do that?
That's a good question.
How do you stay true to yourself, especially when there's so much pressure to conform?
I think it starts with self-awareness.
Self-awareness again.
It all comes back to self-awareness. Knowing your values, what you stand for, what you're willing to compromise on, and what you're absolutely not.
Right, like where your line is.
Exactly. Evie talks about having a strong moral compass, and how that guided her decisions even when they were tough or unpopular.
It's like having that inner voice that says, nope, this doesn't feel right. This isn't who I am.
Yes, but sometimes that voice gets drowned out.
It does.
By all the external noise.
Right, by all the shoulds.
The shoulds, exactly.
So how do we make sure we're listening to that inner voice?
That's where having that strong support system comes in again.
Okay.
Those people who know the real you, who remind you of your values when you're feeling lost.
Right, like a gut check.
Exactly. And it's about constantly checking in with yourself.
Okay.
Asking, am I being true to myself in this situation? Am I living in alignment with my values?
It's like that quote, be yourself, everyone else has already taken.
I love that quote.
But Evie takes it a step further.
Yeah.
It's not just about being yourself.
It's about becoming the best, most authentic version of yourself.
I like that a lot.
And that's a journey that takes courage.
Yeah.
Self-reflection, a willingness to learn and grow.
Right, it's not always easy.
It's not, but as Evie's story shows us, it's definitely worth it.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the high-stakes world of the Secret Service to everyday challenges we all face.
It's amazing how it all connects.
Evie's insights are so powerful and applicable.
I agree.
So what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from this conversation?
I hope they feel empowered.
Empowered.
Yeah, empowered to be more aware, more resilient, more authentically themselves. Evie's story shows us that we all have that potential within us.
Yeah.
To face our fears, to overcome challenges, and to create a life that we truly love.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
No, thanks.
It's been an incredible journey, and I feel like I've learned so much, not just about Evie Poumpouras, but about myself.
Me too.
So to our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
Remember, becoming bulletproof isn't about being invincible.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey, learning from every experience.
And constantly striving to become the best version of yourself.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Reach out to your support system, find mentors, connect with others who inspire you.
We're all in this together.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep on learning.
Yes.
And be sure to check out Evie's book, Becoming Bulletproof.
Great book.
For even more wisdom and inspiration.
So good.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Hi, everyone.